the work we have to do is self-evident as it relates to unemployment and PUA support for those that are trying to navigate our unemployment and pandemic unemployment assistance system here in the state of California. This system is an old, 30-plus-year-old technological system. For those that understand a little bit about technology, these are the old COBOL systems, these legendary COBOL systems that need to be upgraded, frankly, need to just simply be strewn to the waste bin of history. But nonetheless, we inherited a little bit of that waste bin, and as a consequence, we've been trying to patch it together, and we recognized that we can plod along in the short run, we can plod along in the medium run, we can have a long-term strategy, or we can come up with new ideas from a different angle. We put together a strike team led by Yolanda Richardson, who will be up here in a moment, and by one of, I would argue, one of the most impactful technologists of the sort, and someone who started Code for America and worked in the Obama administration, Jen Polka, to provide us input from a private sector perspective and looking not just at technology, look at business process improvements and looking at new strategies. They co-chaired a task force, and they came up with a series of recommendations that already we have put into place. I mentioned last week that we anticipated the fruits of this report, which, by the way, are not just a strike team report. They're also a consultant that we hired, a report from a consultant, and a response back from EDD. I made it clear that when that report was done, we would make it public, and we worked through the weekend to do just that. Came out late on Saturday night, but we said we were going to move forward, provide that information in a transparent way. We've done that, and as a consequence, the reset started this weekend. I didn't want to wait another day to start this reset period to get this system back on its feet and get us to a position where we can address this significant number of backlog cases. By the way, in the report, it's remarkable, showed an independent review that showed our system, as challenged as it's been, is actually performing much better than the vast majority of states. Dare I say that as a nation, we have a huge IT problem. As a nation, we must do what California and I would argue municipalities must do, and that is completely reimagine our approach to large-scale IT procurement. The fact that we have been consistently one of the top 10 states in terms of percentage of people that have filed and received checks, now 14th by one analysis, suggests how low the bar is in terms of our systems across this nation. And so I'm not here to compare and contrast. I'm here just to give you a sense of what governors and what state legislatures all across this country are facing in terms of this historic number of cases that we have to adjudicate. And I say adjudicate because we're adjudicating fraud. We've had fraud schemes all across the United States of America, disproportionately hitting states that have no income taxes for various reasons that become very obvious on the verification side when you consider. We are not immune from those fraud efforts, and we are making real progress to weed them out and hold individuals and organized groups accountable. But one of the most important things we can do, and what we're doing as part of this 2-week reset, is implementing a new automatic ID verification software system. We went through about 16 or so vendors looking at what was available out there, and went down to about 12 where we really tested and kicked the proverbial tires, and we've come up with a system called ID.me. This will process about 90% automatically of all of the new applications. You'll have requirements under this automated IT system to do selfies, to provide additional verification in ways that we think could substantially, not exclusively, no one's naive, but substantially mitigate fraud. We are now aware of 5 states that are in the process of utilizing similar technology. We were comparing and contrasting. I think Texas soon will be doing the same, though I don't want to speak for them. But we've been able to share best practices. We've been able to talk to our colleagues all across this country, not just governors, but our strike team looked at those best practices in terms of verification software. And that's the one we've landed on, and we're moving quickly in this 2-week reset. We also are looking at business process improvements, not just IT improvements, taking some of our most senior staff members that have been working the phones and now using the more senior staff members with their unique insight and expertise to go after the most complex and the oldest cases that are the most stubborn and I know frustrating for many of you trying to navigate this system. We're also focusing on our email backlogs and mail backlogs and addressing more aggressive strategy on outbound call effort, not just reacting, but being more proactive in adjudicating claims and moving claim processing forward. The goal is self-evident. It's to reduce that backlog, reduce at the moment the growth of that backlog. Again, we say short-term, medium, and long-term. We believe this 2-week reset will do just that. We're also making available more ability to download forms and information using your mobile devices and having better and easier information available on your mobile devices as well. We want to meet people where they are, and that means meeting them on their smartphones and providing that information in a much more expedited manner with more clarity and with more focus on what the real needs are. So that was all parcel of the strike team report and this consultant report. And I should just say, and I'm going to ask Yolanda to come up here in a moment, that the reset does not mean that those of you that are now for the first time applying for benefits will be impacted in terms of those benefits being provided. Quite the contrary. We believe this will fast track the likelihood that you would otherwise gone into a manual process that can take upwards of 60 days. Unacceptable. And so we believe, and Yolanda will talk in a moment, that this reset will make not only this process better in the medium and long term, but begin to substantially address the backlog over the next 90 to 100 days with the goal to substantially have addressed it and not impact any people that are applying for the first time in terms of the timeliness to a check. And so it's in that spirit, with that consideration in terms of the ambiguity perhaps in some of the reporting about what a reset actually means to new applicants, that I would love co-chair of our task force, Secretary Richardson, to come up and talk a little bit more about her team's efforts, her recommendations, and what her expectations are moving forward with this system.
Appreciate that, Governor. On behalf of the strike team, my wonderful co-leader, Jen Pahlka, we really want to thank the governor for the opportunity to go into EDD and bring a fresh perspective on their operations and to build on the efforts to design a faster and better experience for the hundreds of thousands of deserving UI claimants across the state. The governor could not have said it better. Our charge was clear. We were to go in and look for how we can ensure that claimants can have the experience that they deserve. And so our report, which we have provided to EDD, is over 70 recommendations, specifically focused on doing a number of things. One, definitely reducing and preventing the growth backlog. And we just at this time want to really applaud EDD for embracing the idea of the reset, which will allow for those people that the governor mentioned. 40% of UI claimants were going into a manual process. And by embracing this reset, we are giving them a 90% chance going forward of having a much faster experience. This is about getting a check in their hand much faster, and we really appreciate that. Our recommendations were across the board, definitely looking at their processes, looking at redesigning the experience. And so we believe that FEDD embraces our recommendations, they will be well on their path to creating a first-class user experience, minimizing processing delays, being able to open the mail, being able to answer calls. And so we really appreciate, again, their embracement of our recommendations, but most importantly, the Government Operations Agency, in partnership with the California Department of Technology and the Office of Digital Information, is looking forward to supporting them on their journey to creating that first-class user experience. Thank you, Governor.